Gonna get controversial. All right, hey, failed entrepreneur. I make crappy videos every day, so make sure you subscribe so you can argue with me. And gotta talk about flattening the curve. I'm gonna put my neck out there on this one, right? What the hell is going on with the whole flattening the curve thing, right? So as I record this is May 13th. It's been about 2 months, 2 months of social distancing and quarantining and flattening the curve. Since we, have kind of gone to war, I'm going to come back to that a lot, against the coronavirus, right? If you remember, it was back in like mid-March when this all just seemed to hit out of nowhere. NBA, MLB, soccer, hockey, all these sports leagues were shutting down, and then eventually all the schools shut down, and then businesses shut down. And it was economic blitzkrieg. We've never seen just a huge wrecking ball go through the economy like coronavirus did. You can't go to work anymore. People are getting paid from the government to stay home since the government won't let them go to work. I don't think anyone ever envisioned a scenario quite like this with a total shutdown. And the whole point of this, right, was to flatten the curve, was to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. To the intention at the time, the way it was sold, right, this is what we were told, to stop hospitals from being overwhelmed with patients. That was it. That was the goal, right? We didn't want a mass of patients rushing to the hospital, overwhelming their facilities, taking services away from people who had to be there legitimately. That was the whole point. It was never intended to eradicate corona. We weren't going to shut down and hibernate until corona goes away. That ain't happening. But somehow I get the impression that seems to be how people have taken it. Just conversations and reading things on social media. And I hate to, and that it's good news, but if you actually go and look at, the corona statistics in the United States, I'm going to say it. It's a loaded phrase. Mission accomplished. It's done. The curve has been flattened. We hit the peak at the end of April, about a week or two ago, with about 30,000, it looks like, reported cases, new cases a day. If you actually go and look, maybe I'll link it in the comments if I remember, the corona cases, it looks like the stock market. It goes up and down and up and down and up and down. But the curve, if you look at it, right, we have the 30,000 peak cases like end of April, and we're like, let me double check again, around 20,000 cases a day. So the curve is not flat, right? That would be 30,000 every day. The curve is declining. It's a declining curve. It is trending downwards. We did it, everybody. Like I said, mission accomplished. It's done. But you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know from talking to people. You wouldn't know it really from looking at. Yeah, states are slowly starting to open back up, and so maybe they timed it right, but not every state is. Some are even saying they're extending this quarantining and the lockdown. What's going on? I'm gonna go back to the mission accomplished phrase, right? Like any military intervention, do as I say, not as I do. You want to have an exit strategy, right? When do you leave? When is it time to get out? I know we didn't do that in Afghanistan. That's good advice. We didn't follow in Iraq, right? But what is the exit strategy here? When is the curve flattened? When is it good enough, right? Because if you look at the charts, if you look at statistics, okay, not saying anything controversial here, the curve is not flattening. The curve is declining, okay? Except maybe for like a New York, because that's a mega condensed metropolitan area, okay? I don't see many hospitals being overwhelmed, which was the whole point, right? As a matter of fact, I've heard that a lot of nurses and staff are being sent home because there's just no one going to hospitals anymore. Because if it's not life-threatening, then you ain't going. You just deal with it at home. A lot of urgent care places may not make it, ironically enough, because of the shutdown and people don't want to go and leave home. And so you would think that, from the doom and gloom in the news, that, it's just, the apocalypse when it comes to, medical facilities in this country. And it is, but not what we think. There's no one coming in. They're sending people home. They're really not getting overwhelmed. Like I said, it's just not happening. So again, mission accomplished. The hospitals survived. They haven't buckled. New York maybe is the exception, and they've been the news. They probably came very close, right? Maybe even they did for a little bit. But for the rest of the country, sorry, I don't live in New York. I'm very far from New York. Most of you probably statistically aren't in New York either. I'm sure your hospitals are pretty okay. So why are we doing this still? The damage is massive. The economy could take a decade to recover. We could be going into like I said, not the prolonged depression, but this economic blitzkrieg. It's not going to get fixed just as quickly as it was damaged. I'm sorry, a lot of these jobs ain't coming back. American habits are going to be changed, right? Because people are just going to be scared of this going forward. And Corona, like I said, it's not going away. I think we can all pretty much agree on that, right? So why are we keeping this shutdown going if we're never going to reach that point? Sooner or later, we're just going to have to try and live with it. Good news is some statistics are showing, some research is showing, I'm not making things up, I'm just going off of what doctors and researchers have said. Blah. Corona may be a little less deadly than we thought at first. This, it's not Ebola, right? Thank God, not yet. Hospitals weren't getting crushed with patients. We are, the statistics here, this chart is only going off of reported cases. But what we're seeing now is that Corona was probably here a lot earlier than people realized. Maybe even as far back as a November. Right? Corona it got crazy in March, but a lot of people may have had it during Christmas, even a little bit before then. And most of those people made it through, right? I think I made a video on it. I think I had it over November because I had this crazy respiratory congestive cough that just wouldn't go away. And I remember telling people at the time, this is the strangest thing. It's not a flu. It's not a cold. This is something I've never really had this type of nagging, lingering, weird type of cough. And it turns out, many people did. So if you go and look, a lot of hospitals at the time were reporting a spike in reported flu cases this winter. But also a lot of them were saying people were coming in with flu-like symptoms that wasn't flu. Corona wasn't in our vocabulary yet, but it's very possible it's been here for a long time. We've been living with it. We were living with it in December. We were living with it in February. And there's a lot of unreported cases. That's what I'm trying to say, going back to my original thought, right? There's so many cases that aren't being reported. The people that die, we hear about those. It's hard to miss that. Okay? So that statistic is more or less accurate, and that's who is not making it through. But the people who are exposed to this, again, the research is saying it could be 40, 50% higher than what's being reported. And that does change the math a little bit. So, yes, of course, if you're in certain demographics, if you're elderly, obese, and poor health, yes, it's a higher risk to you. But you know what? Everything is at that point anyways. It doesn't make sense to just keep shooting ourselves in the foot, sabotaging ourselves. The long-term consequences from this are massive, and we don't even understand them yet. And the longer that this shutdown goes on, the more permanent, the more long-lasting, the more hellish, dangerous, depressing that this damage is going to be. And again, you have to be callous here. I'm not callous in a bad way. I'm just saying that you're not going to eradicate, flattening the curve is not eradicating coronavirus, okay? It's not going to happen. Hospitals are not overwhelmed. They seem to have made it through just fine, most of them, and the reported number of cases are going down, even in these next couple of weeks, we will see as states start to open back up and still employ social distancing practices, 6 feet away at the grocery store, stuff like that. But again, we may find, crazy as it sounds, we can live with this. We can make it through this. We can deal with this. We probably did back in the winter. And again, let's try and get back to a sense of normalcy, right? Flatten the curve, it just doesn't make sense anymore. And I hate when people are saying that, because they're just mindlessly repeating buzzwords or bullet points that they've been fed from others, but it just doesn't make any sense. And maybe they just didn't understand what this meant in the beginning. But again, the curve isn't flattened. No, the curve is receding. It is declining. Look at the statistics. Hospitals are fine. That was the whole point. Let's get back to business, right? The American business is the business of American business. There's an old expression, something I can't remember. Someone important said that the business of the American people is business. Is that right? If not, you can credit that to me. But anyway, like I said, mission accomplished. It's done. Curve is flattened. There's no other way to look at it, okay? And barring some huge second wave, which is possible, this is still uncharted territory. Anything could happen, obviously. Just look at the last 2 months. But if we're trying to stick to what we intended to do in the beginning, we've done it, right? Let's not change the goalpost. We're a little more informed now, and let's cautiously but actively try and go back, right, to our normal lives. Now, in a month, if it's just chaos and it's apocalypse, you can come back to this video and told me I told you so. But I think we're going to be fine. I think we did what we wanted to, and the price has been very high in many areas, but the curve, it's flattened. I don't know what else to say. Okay, it's declining. Sorry, it's not flat. That's not even accurate. Let's go back to work. I need my coffee. That's great content. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Failed entrepreneur. I got things to do. I know you do too. I'll catch you later.